I'd like to give a little more detail on so-called Champagne House, which was the home sponsored by the Greater Community AIDS Project, which the name of which was, the original name was the Greater Community Gay AIDS Project or something like that. And there was a big fight here. Oh, there was always this is another story I should tell you about the Champagne House. There were two groups when this was first formed, and one group wanted to keep the old name and one group wanted to keep the new name, and there's a big to-do about this, and finally the new name, Greater Community AIDS Project, was accepted, and the other group that didn't like it walked out. So they eventually came back, but they sort of have a hissy fit. But anyway, the Champagne House, we call it Champagne House, is not to bring attention to the fact that the people who lived there were victims of AIDS, because we didn't need people driving by throwing rocks at the house or saying remarks if there's someone sitting on the front porch. So we sort of kept and only used a P.O. box for an address. So we kind of kept it low key, but everybody who was involved in AIDS or AIDS programs, and that's another subject, would know about it and would work with it. And for those who might not be familiar with it, we started out with one house, and we bought it and eventually paid for it. And it provides shelter. We had, let's see, I'm not quite sure how many, we had maybe 4 or 5 bedrooms, and then a communal kitchen, a living room with a TV, and so we would mostly, it would be gay men, but we have had, as I recall, a gay woman, a woman, straight woman, who was inseminated by a gay man. She had AIDS, and then he left her, and so we provided shelter for her and her child until they could get on their feet. And this is what we do. We help people who, another young man I remember, his parents found out that he was gay, and he was thrown out on the streets, and he slept in the street for a couple of nights, and finally he was referred to Champagne House, and he came in, and he was just on the verge of suicide, and we just saved that soul and got him started. And we have a lot of organizations in town. We were by ourselves originally, and now we have several organizations in town that help sponsor the Champagne House and are on the board of directors, and it's completely, it is very successful. In fact, they now have 2 buildings to help individuals who are HIV positive. So that's another whole story I could give you on that. But it was a great experience, and to meet these young people who were with nothing. I mean, they're just thrown on the street with nothing, and help them finally build them up, finally get their own apartment, get a job, and get them going back in society again. I mentioned earlier about the so-called ghettos. This is not a good term, but I don't know what else to call it. But so many of the gay men lived in Champaign, in the area around Lincoln Square. And then the lesbians had a sort of an area in Champaign. There was several streets, and most of them lived in that area. Not all of them, but most of them. And they had I recall the lesbians every Christmas would go around and sing Christmas carols to all our friends' houses in the area, you know. But then, I don't know if the gay men ever did that, but that's how I know about these areas. But of course now they're blown away. They're just, you find them anywhere. In my neighborhood, there's myself and used to be my partner, and then a couple of doors down the street there's another gay couple of men, and then there's on the next street there's another couple whom I haven't met, gay men, but the young men, gay men these days are, for some reason or other, are hesitant to meet with the older generation for some reason or other, which I don't understand, but anyway. Let's see. Also, the first sort of gay bar with dancing was Chester Street Bar, and so many of the young people today know about Chester Street because it's still going on. Well, at one time it was all gay. There was never any straight people there. It was really kind of wild and a place where we could relax and enjoy ourselves. Well, because it was the only bar that had dancing, the straight people started coming in. And it was interesting that the straight people accepted the gay people who were there. There was never any fights or battles or fusses, and it has worked out very well. But I'm one who would prefer a all-gay bar or restaurant or something like they have in Chicago and New York, but we're too small a town for that. I don't know. Chester Street it came in the early 70s, I think. I can't remember exactly when it showed up, but it's been around for some time. And then another place where university students meet is at the Student Union. Now, I didn't know anything about this because I was at the campus, and I thought nothing like this there was no activity on the campus until one of my notoriously wild friends started telling me about his adventures at the Union. And I have to admit, I was taken back. I didn't think that this could possibly be, and it still is, as far as I know, a place where gay men meet, quietly and off the cuff. And then some of the other university buildings provided shelter for a couple whom I have met for the first time. And I'm not sure that this isn't continuing, but I don't have any proof of that. Let's see.